Democratic lawmaker in the state of California is attempting to codify a worker's right to ignore their employer after work hours, essentially ceasing all communications with their employer when they're not working, which makes all the sense in the world to me. And sure, I think some workers do need that added protection of having a law in place, because not all workers can just get away with ignoring their employer after work hours. So here are the details of the bill filed by San Francisco Assemblyman Matt Haney. Filed in February, Assembly Bill 2751 would apply to both public and private employers, requiring them to allow workers the right to disconnect from communications from an employer during off hours, except in the case of emergency or for scheduling changes that would affect the next 24 hours. Sometimes there is an emergency, someone calls sick, and so if an employer needs to reach out to see if you can fill in, that obviously is okay. The loophole here might be in case of an emergency, because I mean, that's kind of subjective, right?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the finalized legislation has a bit more specificity, but I immediately think, I think I talked about this last week on the show with you. I think of like Michael Scott marking all of his texts 911 because he knows that if he doesn't, no one will answer. So I'm a little bit worried about that.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be more specific.
So obviously, if you are a unionized worker in California and this legislation gets passed and implemented into law, your contract with the union and with your employer would supersede this law.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth, as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
According to Haney, because of remote work and the COVID-19 pandemic, it's become more and more difficult for people who work from home to basically put a stop to their workday. Yeah. And I have friends who have really experienced this and suffered as a result of this. Haney says people now find themselves always on and never off. There's an availability creep that has reached into many people's lives, and I think it's not a positive thing for people's happiness, for their well-being, or even for work productivity. And I totally agree with him on that. If people are burnt out, if they're just working constantly, I just feel that the work that they produce during work hours isn't gonna be as good. They're gonna be exhausted. So it's important to have a work-life balance. And again, if legislation, if a law would provide the protection that workers need in ignoring their employer during off hours, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm always glad when I see California doing something like this, and I feel like California is one of the states that's most likely to do something like this, to be a little bit more creative in how you help out workers. I think a lot of people, maybe they don't have jobs where this sort of thing is common. They might think, well, does that even happen? Or if it happens, then just ignore it. But that totally ignores the context of what it's like to work at a job. Like how helpful you are is a thing that you're evaluated on, which is one of the reasons why I worry that even a piece of legislation like this can't wholly protect against it. Like if it's to dissuade bosses or managers or whatever from communicating in the first place, I think that would be the best way to do it. Don't send unnecessary communications. If it's just, if you choose not to reply, you can't be fired as a result.
Right.
Okay, well that's something, but what if some people are still responding and they're seen as team players and they're seen as self-starters? Totally. Like that would bother me. I hope that it's a little bit more thoughtful than that.
Well, I mean, look, honestly, these labor laws are kind of tricky because there might be labor laws protecting you from termination. Let's say because you're a woman who got pregnant, right? There have been companies that just allege that they terminated that person for other reasons, when it really, they terminated the woman because she's expecting to have a child and is gonna take some maternity leave and they don't wanna pay for that. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? Like, so I think a similar thing could happen if this law gets passed and signed, because you're right. I mean, there's always inevitably gonna be the people who screwed up for everyone else, right? The team players. I think you're actually one of them, John. The person who responds, even if it's like midnight, because you want to be helpful, I get it. But you need to ignore the emails, John.
I don't think I do. Maybe
you have a child now, John.
I do. I should probably pay attention to her. She's got a name. I don't know what it is, but I'm just so on email all the time. That's funny that you bring that up, because as we were doing this story, anytime we do a story about like managers or whatever, now I immediately think, am I the baddie in this? But I don't think I am. I don't contact much. If I do, usually it's on Slack, and I'll accompany the message with, this is just for tomorrow, don't respond to this. And only if it's a scheduling thing, like a guest drops out the night before. That's the only time that I actually communicate with someone.
I actually penalize my team if they respond to my messages during off work hours.
Like, do you message them as a test, and if they reply, you fine them?
Totally, and then I punish them.
Okay, they deserve it.
I think so too. I'm just kidding. I would never do that to them. In fact, literally yesterday, I messaged them and said, listen, sometimes on the weekends, I remember that I have to communicate something to you guys, but I just message you because I don't want to forget later.
That's it, yeah.
Don't respond to, like, I'm not expecting you to respond. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I do think that there are a lot of jobs where they expect you to be more than just responsive to an email. They expect you to be 15% working all the time. You have to be paying attention to what's going on. You have to be keeping up with Slack or Teams or whatever. Like, you know, and not just in this industry. I think there's a lot of industries like that where you kind of have to be keeping up with things all the time, not letting it pile up. Hopefully this is, and by the way, we might say that this might not go far enough, or there's ways that you can get around it. That is not fatalistic. It's not saying don't try. It's not saying just give up. It's good that they're trying to deal with it, and this sort of legislation can be amended in the future.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below, because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We can be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.